Eric Mangini, Fox Sports NFL analyst. We're getting very close now. You can feel it. It's very exciting. It's the Kenny Pickett thing. I was saying this earlier, that when Joe Burrow went to Cincinnati, they didn't have much of a history. They were kind of pathetic. They were kind of desperate. And they didn't have a safety valve. Like, Joe, it's your franchise. People forget his first year, he was 2-7-1. And outside of 2 Cleveland games, he had some bad Sundays. Year 2, he had 3 games, more picks than touchdowns, lost. He had multiple pick games, but there was no safety valve. Like, win games for us. And that is part of the process. With Kenny Pickett, he's talented. He has weapons like Burrow did, but they've never been desperate or pathetic. And if he doesn't do well, they have Mitch Trubisky. And I'm like, in a weird way, I would almost rather be the Burrow style, which is, kid, you're going to have to kind of carry this team, and we're going to figure out in 25 starts if you're the guy. With Pickett, you can kind of fool him. And, hey, Kenny, you're going to sit for a couple of weeks. Here's Trubisky. And I worry about Pittsburgh because their history, they've never been, like, awful. Are they willing to be awful for a year? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, when Ben Roethlisberger came in, remember that they had Charlie Batch and they had Maddox. And Roethlisberger was the number 3 on the depth chart, and then Batch got hurt during the preseason. Maddox goes in. He gets hurt in the second game. Roethlisberger comes in. They don't end up winning that game, but then he wins 13 straight games. So they historically have done this before where they've had a couple of guys that weren't really the answer, and then they go and draft someone that looks like it's going to be the answer. And in that example, they wanted to put a guy with some experience in to start. But when Ben got his opportunity, he blew it out. And Pickett's making a very strong case for himself in a key area, which is how he handles end of the game situations or end of the half situations. Figure the first preseason game he plays, he drives them down and scores a touchdown to win. And then last game, at the end of the half, he drives them down and he actually throws 2 touchdowns because the first one gets called back to score again. So he's making a strong case for himself. But as a coach, you do like the idea of being able to give a young guy a little bit of an opportunity to see what's going on and get a feel for it. And I think that's probably how they're going to end up going, is start Trubisky, see what happens, but probably not have a very long leash.
You had pretty good draft personnel history in your career as a head coach. You weren't around a lot of guys that missed. There was a rush in from Ohio State that missed for you. And at some point, you all have to sit in a room and go, guys, we missed, whatever. And I look at Jordan Love, and I'm like, he completed 55% in that game against Kansas City last year, 55% in this preseason. He struggled with accuracy in college, but you have moved up to get him in the first round. Do you think anybody in that organization is kind of saying, we may have missed on this one? Like, when do you get to that point as a front office guy or a coach?
You always are worried when the head coach gets up to the podium and the only thing he can talk about is resiliency and the progress that he's made. Because, look, I've done it. I've had guys where I was disappointed with what's going on, but you can't go up to the podium and talk about all the things you're disappointed in. Those are things that you're working on behind the scenes. If anything, you've got to prop that guy up, because if Aaron Rodgers goes down, he's got to go in, and the group has to believe that he is really showing improvement, even though they watch practice and they have their own opinion. I agree with you. It should at this point look a lot better. You shouldn't have 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions throughout the preseason. You shouldn't have the only thing being talked about is the way that you handle adversity, when the adversity you created is often because of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. I expected a lot more than what we're getting at this point from Jordan Love.
You know Brady really well. We kind of think the end is very near. I'm not going to predict it, but he did retire, then unretire. Now they have a reassigned coach, Bruce upstairs, Todd downstairs. O-line's a mess. No team in the league has had more injuries, not season enders in all cases, but more injuries than Tampa's offense. It's been unbelievably bad luck. It's like Baltimore early last year. It's like cluster injuries in the offensive line. Tom does not like, most quarterbacks don't like the at the feet pressure. They can step up, they're fine. Your thoughts about, he missed 11 days. It's family stuff. He retired. The team's kind of falling apart. I can't see Brady being bad or struggling, but has it not been a strange 3.5, 4 months for Tom?
Yeah, it has. And if it was anybody else in the football universe, you would say, okay, this doesn't look right. It doesn't smell right. It's not going to be okay. And the thing that we've all learned with Tom is if you bet against him, you typically lose. So I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt from that standpoint. But you can't be excited about a situation where a guy does retire and say, okay, I'm done. Because usually once a guy starts talking about retiring, they're done. They're done. And then he came back, and then you've had the gap here, the coaching staff change, the issue on the O-line. You've got all those things where when he came in the first time, it was I'm going to prove New England wrong. I'm going to play until I'm 45. The team was a lot more poised to win. That the situation was just radically different. So it's problematic, but I just can't bet against Tom. So I figure he'll make it work. He'll find some way to will it to work.
Listen, the quarterback situation, at some point, Jay Glazer said this years ago, it's an awful league to coach in if you drive to work or the stadium knowing I have a significantly less talented quarterback. He said it's
awful.
It's an awful league. It's no fun.
Awful.
It's the worst, best job in America, NFL head coach. So Dak, you're never in chaos with Dak. He's certainly capable. You pay him the money. That's not the issue. But I think this is the first year, Eric, he's going to have to carry him. I mean, he's going to have to carry. We don't even know when Michael Gallup's coming back. They lost both tackles, a guard. Zeke's declining. I don't love McCarthy's history of developing run games. They need to be more run-oriented, but I thought Matt LaFleur's done a better job with the run game than McCarthy did, in my opinion. I think Dak's going to have to carry it. Can he, in your opinion?
Well, here's what I've always been frustrated with from the Cowboys is when they had a team where Dak didn't have to carry him, and they had a great formula where you run the ball and then use Dak to supplement that, and they were so successful doing that, they decided we're going to have Dak carry us. And there were multiple games where he threw 50 times, 40 times, and it didn't work out. Now they have a team that can't carry Dak, and he's got to carry him. And I'm with you. I don't see him being the dramatic force multiplier that you get from a lot of the elite great quarterbacks. I think he's sounds like a great guy, sounds like a great teammate. He does a lot of good things, but I'm just not sure at the end of the day he's going to be able to make everybody else raise their level so much by the way he plays as opposed to him supporting the rest of the team. And yeah, it's an issue.
Okay, I'll throw this at you. I don't want to play GM, although I think I'd be a very good.
I know you think you'd be a very good GM. Although some of your quarterback selections we'd have to talk about.
Not great. I've whiffed. I've been fired twice already.
You'd be looking for your third job.
Yeah, I would. So sometimes you got to make chicken salad out of you know what. So Denzel Mims is not happy, and his agent says, I want out of New York. And I think to myself, that's not terrible. Because I think the last 2 years, the Jets have hit on some of these young receivers. I really do. I think they have a really interesting receiving core. So my takeaway is we are desperate at left tackle. So can I call Houston and say, you need receivers for your young quarterback, and you don't have them. We need a left tackle. We'll give you a 2, a 3, Denzel Mims. We're not giving you 1 because we're going to get Will Anderson next year on the defensive end from Bama. But I look at that Denzel Mims Jets thing, and I think, that is not terrible. Receivers are they're the new glamour position, not running back. What would you do with Denzel Mims today? Agent's unhappy. You got some really good pieces. He's just not getting reps, coach. He's not getting on the field.
I just read that Carolina's interested. I'd trade with Carolina. I would 100% trade with Carolina after what they gave you for Sam Darnold. You know you're going to get good value for your Denzel Mims, he hasn't done anything in New York. And we could say it's the quarterback's fault. We could say it's the offense's fault. We could say it's the coach's fault. But the reality is he wants a trade with very little production, and not many teams especially at this point going into the start of the season, when you've got a lot of guys that you're excited about and you want to figure out your 53-man roster, are going to want to trade with them. But Carolina does because of Matt Rule's history with them. So that's the call. That's the trade. You're probably going to get the best value there. And then if you do get something of substance, maybe you can package that to try to go alleviate your offensive line issues. Otherwise, you're scanning the waiver wire like everybody else and seeing who could potentially pop.
Two best rosters I've seen in preseason, Niners, Bills. I just don't see flaws. The difference is one has a superstar quarterback and one has a kid. What are realistic expectations for Trey Lance? What would you be at the end of the year? Let's not even go end of the year. By Thanksgiving, what do you got to see? 62%, passer rating 98, growth. What do you got to see? Because this roster, there's a lot of, between Shanahan and those weapons and Kittle, it's like, boy, Eric, there's a lot of yards after the catch here if you can just deliver the ball.
Yeah, and remember, Colin, when San Fran moved on from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick, Alex Smith had been very successful. And there's some parallels there between Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance and that situation. So organizationally, it's not a new thing that they're being exposed to. What Trey brings to the table is he does bring the ability to create explosive plays with his feet.
Yep.
He creates game plan problems that obviously were never there with Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you're willing to use him for some of those quarterback-driven runs to then supplement an already very problematic running game and then try to give him the core group of passes that he's most comfortable with. And you can find 2 or 3 short, 2 or 3 intermediate, 2 or 3 deep, do what he's good at, have him move the pocket type plays. He's going to be very good at those type of things. And manage his success and his downside early. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo, I never thought that was a possibility. The thing that I struggle with is you look at the backup. You've got Trey, who hasn't played. Their backup quarterback, he hasn't played either. What's he thrown, 35 times in the NFL? And then you've got a rookie behind him. Maybe some outside chance at keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. I know that sounds crazy, but
no,
you've got no experience. You've got no experience in that quarterback position once Jimmy leaves the team.
Yeah, what if they've sat there and thought, listen, we're going to remove Jimmy from, go practice by yourself because we want Trey to know it's your team. But privately, they're saying we're going to give this a month. And after a month, if it's ugly, Jimmy, here's the playbook. It ain't that different than last year's. I could see them privately. Private and what you tell players is different. I could see them saying it is Trey's team. And then you're 1-3 and you lose to the Texans. And suddenly we got to win games here. That doesn't sound crazy, does it?
No. And this is a team that's paid backup quarterbacks a lot. Remember the Joe Montana, Steve Young situation. At that time, the one of the highest paid, I think the highest paid backup ever. And people used to think, why would you ever do that? And when you've got a team that's poised to win, and obviously you have a guy that you want to play, now you're sitting with another quarterback that you know that you can win with, and you have won with. The cap hit, you've been dealing with that all along. It's not like you're going to go and be able to do a lot with that money at this point once you release them. It's not out of the realm of possibility to take a step back and say, okay, if this fails or he gets hurt, what do we do? What do we do? You're not going to get a great quarterback at that point.
Yep.
You're not going to get a quarterback that you can win with at that point.
Yeah. And you're going to be way too good to get a top 3 quarterback in the draft next year. You're just
no chance.
You're no chance. This is good stuff, Eric Mangini. Well, I don't know if you're at the Cape Cod or wherever you...
I'm back in Ohio, baby.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. Very nice.
Come on and visit. I know you love to visit, the Midwest.
Yeah,
come on out.
I'm all booked up. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's so hurtful.
Eric Mangini, thank you, Coach.
All right, guys, we'll see you.
Home security's not a game. I trust Simply Safe. Advanced technology, 20% off with interactive monitoring and a free indoor camera today if you go to simplysafecolin.com. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.